Hey guys, this is Nat. Welcome back to my channel. This is the video that I had mentioned if you watched my first part of my epic sized empties video. I mentioned that I was going to do a video about where I was, where I've been for the last year, why there was no videos for a year, and my story and related to my pregnancy. So I'll try to keep the details to the bare minimum, but I think it's important to do this because I just want to share the story. For me, it's important to share it. It's also part of a healing process. And also, I think it's important for other women and just parents to hear what could potentially happen, that you never know what could happen. You have a very healthy pregnancy and then something happens, and it's an awareness. It's maybe to feel that you're maybe not alone, that something like this has happened to you, or even here's what the signs to look for, and you'll see what I mean if you keep watching this. So I hope that you watch this, that you like, and that even if I help just one person, if one person watches it and it helps her, I'm happy with that. So just an idea of what you're going to hear here in this video, just so you have an idea. It's my story, it's my pregnancy. I had pre-eclampsia, and I ended up giving birth prematurely to my daughter at 28 weeks, 6 days. So, a little spoiler, she's healthy, she's good, no issues there. That's the good news. She's currently napping, this is why I'm doing this video. She doesn't nap for long, so I'll try to keep it short if I can. Anyway, so basically, where have I been? I had an extremely difficult pregnancy. So my last video before my empties was October 2015, and I was pregnant then. I was early in my pregnancy and I was feeling fine, so that's why I have some video up, and that video's up and that sort of thing. And then I started getting really tired. Like, I was really tired during my pregnancy, which, no big deal. Everybody's tired during their pregnancy. But I think it was just one of those things that I didn't want to do anything else, any additional filming or anything like that. It was just too much. And then what ended up happening is, so I was all good. I was just tired. No morning sickness or anything until I reached, I think 13 weeks, which usually you reach your third trimester. Your second trimester, and morning sickness goes away. No. For me, it started at 13 weeks, and it wasn't morning sickness. It was anytime sickness. Don't even call it morning sickness, because that's not what it was. It was sickness, but really I was throwing up all the time. Any time of day. Actually, usually not in the morning. Usually you see those cartoons or those TV shows that the woman gets up out of bed and runs to the bathroom to throw up. That never happened to me. It was at any point during the day, 8 times a day, 5 times a day, 2 times a day, 6 times a day, 5. It didn't really matter. It was all over the map. There was no pattern. Not really related to anything I ate either. Kind of all over the place. That lasted till about 22 weeks. And it mostly went away. I think I threw up like once or twice here and there after that, but that regular, oh my god, kill me now. And when I say like 8 times a day, let's say, that's just 8 sessions. Multiple throwing up during one session. Yeah, no, TMI. But anyway, it was bad. And then I ended up, so what happens is, in Canada, we end up having the choice, so you can go with a midwife if you want to go for a midwife, or you can go with an OBGYN, at least that's in Ontario, in my province. And you also have the choice of a midwife at the hospital, or a midwife in a birthing center, etc. Which, I won't get into the details, but so I originally wanted to meet a midwife. I wanted a midwife in the hospital in case something goes wrong, and I also wanted an epidural. And when I first called, there was no one available. Apparently I was due May 20th, and May was really busy apparently, lots of babies, so there was no one available for me. So I went with my family doctor, and after 20 weeks he referred me to an OBGYN. to keep following during the rest of my pregnancy and to also deliver my baby. So that's what happened. He transferred me after 20 weeks, and I ended up having an appointment. It's funny because I had an appointment, and then midwives called me to say, hey, we now have somebody available for you. So I ended up having the appointment to meet them like one after another, and then I was like, well, I'll choose what I want after that. When I went to the midwife, everything was fine, except my blood pressure started to get high. I hadn't had high blood pressure yet in my pregnancy, so I'm like, okay. So it was a little too high for her to consider me as a patient, so I ended up with the OBGYN by default. But she had done some consulting with the hospital and with some other midwives, and suggested that I go to the hospital because it was a little higher than what she was comfortable sending me home with. So we did. We went to the hospital, to the triage for the pregnancy, and my blood pressure was high. It was about 172 or 169 over 90 something. It was high. And so they gave me meds and everything, and it all went down and everything was good. So they sent me home on blood pressure meds. So the next day I go over to my OBGYN, and he hasn't even introduced himself yet, and he said, how do you feel about stopping work? And I'm like, okay, this is February. I'm due in May. I'm expecting to work till a couple weeks before my pregnancy ends. So yeah. So I end up getting off of work because I had high blood pressure and he wanted no stress or nothing. He had warned me, and so had my family doctor, and so had the midwife, about pre-eclampsia. And high blood pressure is one of the symptoms, and the other one is, there's two other ones, which right now I can't remember the third, but I know that protein in your urine is another one, which is why they check your urine, and there's something that shows up in your blood, which I forget what it is. That's why they take blood tests. So they did both of that when I went to the hospital, and everything was good. It was just my blood pressure was high. So, and typically the doctor said, well, preeclampsia usually more commonly happens around the 27, 28 week mark. So you are pretty early to have preeclampsia. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but the stats say. So he took me off of work. My last day of work was February 5th, and I was close to 24-ish weeks then. Normal pregnancy is 40 weeks. So that's kind of what happened. And then I was feeling fine. I mean, I didn't do much. I'd try to go out here and there sometimes with very short spurts so I wouldn't get too tired or elevate my blood pressure or anything like that. So, so this week to me, when everything started happening, is a big blur. So my days aren't straight as to what happened when, but I'll try my best to put it in logical order. So the week that all my symptoms kind of started, I was at home and I ended up having pain right up here, okay, like right under there, okay, right under the breasts. And that pain was pretty bad. And at first I thought I was just constipated because it had happened to me before. And I have a very weird system because I did get my gallbladder out, and this was a similar kind of pain, and I did have some constipation issues, no more, and it was the same kind of pain around the same area. So it didn't last very long, lasted maybe for 4 hours or something like that. It was tolerable pain. It wasn't that bad compared to other things that I had before with like my gallbladder and that sort of thing. Okay, so that happened once, and then a couple days went by. I ended up pulling something in my neck when going to bed. Did not get any sleep, like at all. The night I did that was terrible. You're pregnant, you need sleep. Anyway, and a couple days later, the pain came back. And this time I was already exhausted from not sleeping very well, and the pain came back during the night, and it lasted throughout the day as well. So it was very draining, and we ended up calling the hospital to find out like, okay, well, this is symptoms. They're like, well, you know, make sure you drink water. If I could, they asked me, can I hold water? I said, yes, I can eat. And by that time I was like suspecting it may not be constipation because I had gone to the bathroom even though it wasn't much. So I was like, I don't know. I had doubts, but the pain again went away. But I was really tired and that pain was just draining me. So that was, I think, the Thursday. Sunday comes around, so Saturday night to Sunday morning, around 2 a.m., excruciating pain starts again in the same area. And this time, it is bad. I am not sleeping. I can't do anything with myself. Like, it goes all the way through my back. It's like piercing right through. And it's bad. It's really bad. And I vomited very violently. I could not keep any water down, which should have been, any food or water down, which should have been a huge red flag. So if that happens to you, pain around that area, and can't keep any food down, go to the hospital. That's like my number one thing I want you guys to know about this. Like, don't mess with this. When you're pregnant, I'd rather you go to the hospital and you come back and everything's okay than you don't. I waited 12 hours of this pain. Literally 12 hours before I even said to my husband, let's go to the hospital. And I remember, because that was the day he was painting the baby's room, which, by the way, we ended up having a little girl, and we named her Leia. So anyway, so we bring me to the hospital. I can barely stand. Like, nothing's helping. I can't put hot on it, and I can't put standing, sitting, lying. Nothing works. The pain is just excruciating. And I'm throwing up. I remember there was a nurse that made me wait. There was no one else waiting in the triage. As a nurse, the nurse that was there made me wait almost an hour. And I went back with my husband, and there was a different nurse. And when she heard my symptoms, I think she gave like the dirtiest look to the nurse that was there before. Like, what the heck? This is, you know what this could be. Like, I didn't know, but I could tell she was worried. It was written all over her face. And now that I think about it, I realize that. But I was in so much pain. All I wanted to do is for them to take the pain away. That's all I wanted. So they lie me down on the bed. They take my blood pressure. They take my blood. They get me to do a urine test. They give me fluids and an IV because I hadn't eaten in almost 24 hours at that point. Only about 16 hours at that point. And my blood pressure was 200 over 110. And she's like, no, that can't be true. And then it was like 195 over 100. It was insane. Absolutely insane. And I ended up throwing up, so they gave me gravel through the IV. Anyways, I was plugged up, and finally, I don't know what did it, but finally the pain just stopped. I was so happy. But then, emotion set in, and I think I was in shock, to be honest. And also, emotion set in and tiredness set in. And when the doctor came in, and he was with the two nurses, and I could see the nurse's face, like, it's not good. It's not good. Anyway, and she's just standing there looking at me, and the doctor's telling me, you are in full pre-eclampsia. And we have to send you to another hospital because the other hospital, they specialize in high-risk pregnancy, and this is a case that they would deal with over there. And they're more equipped for it. And he said, and there's a possibility you're gonna have to deliver your baby. I'm just like, I'm like, okay. I'm literally like in shock. Like I it's not processing. It's not connecting. I'm not making the connections. Anyway, so they ended up sending me to the other hospital in an ambulance. I went over. When I got there, again, it was all shock city. They plugged me all up, give me a different IV, because the two hospitals aren't compatible with their equipment. Go figure. Anyway, and they plug me all up. They give me a gown. I'm in bed. And I'm in full preeclampsia, and at this point they have to figure out what they're going to do. Are they going to deliver the baby now? Am I okay? Am I not okay? What's going on? So in case you don't know, before I go any further, preeclampsia means that your placenta is basically crapping out. Your placenta is saying, no thanks, I'm done, this is it, bye-bye. So it is not healthy, and the cure for preeclampsia is the placenta has to come out. That's the cure. There is no other cure, that's the cure. And then what happens is your blood pressure goes way high. Your liver and kidneys start shutting down. And for me, my kidneys were fine. It was my liver that was starting to crap out, which is why they saw all those proteins in my urine, and that's why they sent me to the hospital. Now, what they did is they gave me a shot at the first hospital, a steroid shot that targets the baby's lungs. So the baby's lungs would have more chance to develop. The longer she's in there, the better. And the longer those, to have a full effect, I think they have to be 2 days with the steroid. So they gave me a shot there, and they were going to give me another one 2 days later if I was still at the hospital and still with child. So that's kind of what happened. They ended up telling me that they were going to try inducing me, that I was stable enough, because what happens is the steroids stabilized my liver enzymes. I was still high in my blood pressure, still some liver enzymes going wonky in my tests, but it was stabilized enough that they could induce me and didn't have to send me into C-section right away. So they did that. They tried inducing me for 4 days. I won't go into the details, but excruciating pain. Can I put it that way? Yeah, I mean, they tried a hormonal way of inducing me. 2 doses of that didn't work, and that, yeah, I won't go into those details, but not good. If you ever want to know, message me. And then they were going to do it's like a balloon catheter. So it's the mechanical way of opening your cervix and starting labor. The doctor couldn't even put the balloon in. It was hurting me too much. He had to stop. So I did 4 days, and the worst thing is they put me on this medication. It's called magnesium sulfate, MAG for short. And it's to protect my brain. So preeclampsia, and they're trying to avoid me going into eclampsia. So in eclampsia, you can go into seizures, and it's extremely dangerous for both you and the baby. At this point, the baby's fine. They have this monitor on me. The baby's heart rate never changes. She's perfectly good. It's me who's not in so good a situation. So they gave me the second shot of steroids, so they were able to keep trying to induce me because I was still stabilized. After 4 days of trying to induce me, and I'm only dilated 1.5 centimeters, I think the doctor said, they're like, okay, we're calling it quits. Your liver enzymes are starting to go back down again. The honeymoon period of the steroids is over. We need to get her out. You are my second C-section this morning. Holy crap. Now, just to tell you, and this is where this was extremely difficult, because they put me on the MAG, I could not get out of bed. So I was stuck for 4 days, or almost more than that actually, because also after. So about 5.5 days in a hospital bed. Not a hospital bed that has a mattress, a delivery bed. They are not made for you to stay that long in bed. They have a bottom that detaches, so there's like a line, and my butt, or where I was lying, was right on that line. It was extremely uncomfortable. I was in pain. I still have some pain sometimes on that part of my back lower butt, where it hit. I couldn't move. I couldn't get out of bed. And because the MAG makes you super, you're not lucid, it's as if, the only way I can describe it is you're looking at a clock and you're trying to focus on the numbers, but the numbers never come in focus. You always see them double. That's the only way I can explain, but that's for everything. Your vision, all your thoughts, your speech, everything's like blurry, which is why I don't remember 100% everything that happened. But I do remember that they had to take blood out of me every 6 hours, and I have really bad veins. I was bruised. I looked like a drug addict. I had so many bruises on my arm. Finally, they put in an art line. So right here on my artery, they went into my artery and put in an art line that basically, it's like a tap for blood. So they didn't have to prick me every time. They would just like open the tap, take the blood they need, close the tap. Absolutely ridiculous, I know, but it actually felt so good once they did it, because it would take about almost an hour for them to come get blood from me, because they tried to prick me and my veins were all bruised and it was just bad. It was really bad. It was really bad. Yeah, and this art line was literally sewn into my arm. I had 3 or 6 stitches in my arms. 3 stitches in my arms. Alright, so that means that my baby was gonna be born. Oh wait, just to go back to the state I was in. My legs were literally shaking like leaves. They ended up having to put compression socks on me to keep my legs, the circulation in my legs. It was bad. I was literally, I can't say that word because I can't pronounce it properly. I was tested mind and body to a breaking point that I had never experienced before. Not only did I have to come to terms with my baby being born at 28 weeks and 6 days, I was in the hospital. I wasn't going out of the hospital. Like the connections weren't being made in my head yet. Everything kind of hit after. My husband too was trying to be strong. I was trying to hold the fort while he's sleeping in a very uncomfortable cot next to me. It was amazing, but it was just, I can't even explain to you how I was. Extreme exhaustion. Oh, and I was so swollen. I mean, I'm not a small girl, but I was swollen almost double my size. That's the preeclampsia as well, and the medications. Anyway, so they bring me into C-section, which, by the way, don't wish for one because they're not pleasant. They had to give me 2 anesthesias. One, they gave me the epidural and they gave me the spinal anesthesia because I was so swollen. They didn't know if one or both would take. They didn't know. So they didn't take a chance and they gave me both. I was very well frozen from the waist down, for sure. Anyway, and they had warned me that whenever I give birth naturally or C-section, then there was going to be a team of nurses and doctors waiting for the baby to be born. There's like 15 for her, like 4 for me. Like that's the way it is. And there was a room right next to the C-section room, and my husband and I had agreed before, if I'm doing okay, go to the baby. If I'm not okay, stay with me. I was doing fine, so he went to the baby when she was born. I didn't get to see her. They had to rush her directly and to get her all plugged up and on breathing support and all of that. Kyle, my husband, did hold the door open a little bit so when she was crying, so I could hear her cry, but that's it. I didn't get to see her until a day and a half after she was born. Yeah, so I had to go back into the same bed. I had to go back on the medication, the MAG, and because preeclampsia can go away and they have to monitor me for a day to make sure it does go away, but there's a possibility that it doesn't. I was fine. Everything's starting to stabilize, but they have to keep me on the MAG for 24 hours so that it stabilizes. Oh yeah, and I also had a catheter all that time. It was very pleasant, let's put it that way. So finally, after a day and a half, I had a wonderful nurse. Oh my god, this nurse. I haven't seen her since, and she was just so nice. She didn't have to, but she gave me a full bath. And I had another nurse early in my stay because I hadn't washed my hair in like almost a week at that point. And she moved the whole room around, grabbed a tub of water and a little thing to pour over my head, pulled me so my head can be on the edge of the bed so that they couldn't wash my hair, just to make me feel more comfortable. Like, these nurses they're amazing. Amazing. Anyway, so they finally brought me to see my daughter. She was in an incubator, all plugged up. I have no idea how to put like picture overlays. If I can, I'll put a picture of what she look like. I have no idea how it works. I'll figure it out. But she was all plugged up. They had, like, you couldn't see her face. She had the CPAP machine on for breathing. She was doing okay, but I mean, she had to be intubated at some point. Oh, the poor thing. I didn't get to hold her until, because I was in the hospital for 2 days after that. Yeah, so I stayed about almost 7 days, about 6.5 days in the hospital total. But the hardest part was leaving the hospital without her. Hardest thing I've ever had to do. Not gonna cry, but I went from being pregnant, thinking I'm giving birth around May 20th, to giving birth on March 3rd, going through this insane amount of mental and physical breaking point testing shit. Sorry, just put it that way, that's what it was. To having my baby be on... Well, that's her now. She's awake from her nap. I'll just finish my thought and I'll go get her. To being... Yeah, so I went from that to being... recovering from a C-section, which is major surgery, so I'm in pain, to having a baby on life support in the NICU, so that's the neonatal intensive care unit, and she can't leave, and I'm leaving. I'm going home empty-handed. My husband and I are going home empty-handed without our baby. Complete insanity and complete mind screw. Absolutely insane. Those feelings, those emotions. I think both my husband and I had some moments after we were home of, holy moly, what just happened? Oh my god. And my husband literally could have left the hospital without neither one of us. I was in danger. And depending on how she was when she was born, she could have been in danger too. Born at 28 weeks, 6 days. So I had a beautiful preemie. She was born at 2 pounds 2 ounces, March 3rd at 11:03 a.m. Just beautiful. Super tiny, looked like a little alien. She was still a joy, but it was so hard spending most of my days at the hospital. There's only one day that I missed going to the hospital, and that was because my husband and I were sick. And we did not want to get other babies sick, that sort of thing. So there was only one day that we didn't go, and that was a hard day. Really, really hard day. Seeing her progress though, every little ounce of weight that she gained, grams of weight that she gained, was amazing. She was in the hospital for a total of 10 weeks. She ended up coming home about a week before she was due. And we were extremely lucky because the only thing that she had when she came out of the hospital was reflux. There was other babies there that were born even later than Leia, that were older, that had heart surgeries, that had lung issues, that had tons of stuff. And I mean, I was lucky. I mean, with all the things that I went through during those 4 days they tried inducing me, it was worth it, even though I would never want to go through it ever again, because it allowed 4 days of steroids to work on Leia's lungs. And I think that made a huge difference in her development. A huge difference. She was strong. It really humbles you how strong those little babies are. You're talking about a 2-pound baby, and she went down to a pound 13 ounces, I think, because that's what when babies or 14 ounces. When babies are born, they lose weight, right? So she was under 2 pounds at some point. It was crazy. They're so tiny, yet they're so strong. There's a lot we can learn from those little tiny things. They have such a will to live, and they're strong, and it really humbles you to think that this tiny little thing could be so strong. There are amazing nurses that work in the NICU. They are absolutely wonderful. Without them, like, thank you for taking care of my baby when I couldn't. I couldn't provide her with the support she needed. I don't have a CPAP machine at home. Not medically equipped to take care of a 2-pound baby. So, and that was really hard to think as a mother, as a parent. Even my husband was struggling with this. We can't be there 24/7 because we will burn ourselves out. We can't provide her with what she needs, and all you want is to help her. All you want is to hold her and help her. And all I could do is whenever we went to the hospital, I would do skin to skin, and I think the feeling, for me, it was healing. I would go from, getting into the hospital, especially the early weeks when I was still recovering from my C-section. Eventually there was no issues, but I was still in pain. And I'd go in a moment, I would hold her close to me in that skin to skin, my pain would go away. Completely. And I put her back into her incubator and it will come back. Crazy, huh? But it was an incredible journey. She came home, she was 5 pounds, 8 ounces. Cute as a button. We love her very much. She is currently 8 months old. That's her actual age, actual meaning from the day she was born. And she's 5.5 months old from her corrected age. So based on what she would have been born near May 20th, she's 5.5 months old. And that's important because all for her milestones, meaning like rolling over, walking, crawling, all that, will all be tracked as to her corrected age because she's not an 8th month old. She's, at that point when she was born, she was minus 11 weeks. So that's basically the story. I mean, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that if you are pregnant or thinking about having kids and you are experiencing some pain, I knew what pre-eclampsia was. I didn't know how it would manifest itself and what could happen. I mean, my story is different than some other women that I've heard that had pre-eclampsia. Some of them also had other syndromes that kind of went into place, and they went from hospital to delivery right away. My story is obviously different. I think every pregnancy is unique, so I think every story will be unique, but there were some similarities in the pain we felt, where it was located, how it manifested itself. So be aware, take care of yourself. If you have high blood pressure, respect what the doctor says and don't stay at rest. Don't do anything that could aggravate your blood pressure. Anyway, so that was it. So I hope you guys have a great night, have a great day wherever you are, and I hope to see you in my next one.